6:30, and this meeting of the Board of Education is now called to order. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening and start by making sure all of our trustees are connected. Terry, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you. Celeste?
Celeste says she can't log in. I'm not sure what she's having issues with, but she's working on it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Terry. Rusty?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Randy.
Very good. Bo?
Here.
Very good. Kurt?
Yes.
Thank you. And Keith?
Here.
Thank you, Keith. I'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance on behalf of the board. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start by approving our agenda, and we're looking for a very efficient meeting this evening. Are there any changes to the agenda as presented?
Nothing from administration, Randy.
Thank you. Is there a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
Yes, Randy, I'd like to approve, make a motion that we approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you.
I'll
Is
second.
there a second? Thank
Rusty,
you.
second.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Droppers,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn,
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
Very good. The motion is approved, and we'll proceed with our agenda as printed. Things are starting out real well so far, and we'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 reports under the superintendent's report today. The first 2 are the bond project update, and that'll be given by Mr. Herron, and then he'll go right into the bond budget update and the change order summary. He and Dan Rathburn will be presenting that. So, Ron, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, board members. I can't help but say something about the beautiful weather today, but we are here nevertheless. I have a short update for you, and as Mark also indicated, Dan Rathburn is here with me to present part of this report. And you'll hear from him later. On the construction side, I would just say that Central Middle School and West Middle School will really be the same for a while, really just winding down punch list items that are there mainly because of either materials or scheduling of vendors. And we also have some commissioning that will be ongoing, functional testing in those facilities. At the Nauditorium, really the tile has started in the pool and on the walls. The mud bed for tile has started in the pool bowl. The tile in the locker rooms continued. We had about half of that down, and that's continuing there, and also in the timing room. Sound panels in the pool are being installed this week, and finish fixtures throughout. Some additional painting is scheduled along with bath fixtures. April 5th, we start some exterior items around the building. So that's it for the construction update. Any questions? Okay, I will move into the financial update section, which is highlighted by the memo in your packet, which is also highlighting change order 36, which is what we call a reconciliation change order. In this particular one, as I indicated in your memo, Dan will be walking you through the line items, outlining the fund adjustments that have been implemented throughout the program. We're really, we feel pleased with where we're at from a budget standpoint, considering some of the related COVID challenges that we've faced over the past year. Really, some of those items are like supply chain and vendor resources, and really being totally shut down for between 7 and 8 weeks, depending on the project. So our goal was to get you back another million plus, but we didn't quite make that goal. So in your board packet here in change order 36, as we did in change order 24, it'll show you the adjustments we've made. The net result of those changes will increase the unallocated contingency from 1,751,548 to $2,610,927. That's an additional $859,379 that we're putting into the unallocated contingency for future project enhancements. I would also say that these adjustments, there have been several challenges along the way. We tried to really give you an example of what some of those were, which is on the bottom notes of your financial update report. And Dan will be going through some of that. I also provided at the bottom of this memo, the revised memo, the two items that I brought to the board last board meeting, requesting the 860,000, and hopefully that can be approved by the board tonight. And then the remaining enhancements, I wanted to sort of give you a feel for the list of things that are out there that were put together by myself, some of our administrators and our steering committee team, which includes the administrators from central office and our principals and ADs and our facilities management team. So, and with that, I will let Dan go through the financial report, and then we can entertain any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Ron. I guess starting out, just to reiterate what Ron stated, in that right now our current variance is $2,610,000. That's really what's making up our unallocated contingency. As you move down the form, I think you're going to see some highlights here. And what we're trying to do with the highlights is the dark highlights are projects or line items that we're considering done. The slightly lighter highlights, which is for Central and West Middle Schools, those are projects that are almost done. We expect very little change from where we are now. Hopefully a little credit coming in on those. But as you can see with the highlights, we are mostly done. We have a lot of things addressed and a lot of things accomplished. Moving down that list, North Middle School and the site, wrap that up. Central Natatorium has been wrapped up for a little bit, but we're signifying that. Northern Campus site and the Central Campus site, so the two stadiums, all of that is wrapped up. And then CEC is also wrapped up. Outside of the construction scope, buses and technology are done as long as we're also looking at proposal 2, furnishings, professional services, and the work that's we listed as other, which is work by the owner and some other miscellaneous items. I think that covers the basics of what we have there, touching on some of the items that have increased or changed. Over at Central Campus, those changes are due to drainage, fencing, and grading. At West Middle School, we took advantage of being in there for additional painting, ceiling replacement, refinishing the terrazzo halls, new gym flooring upgrades, audio system, and acoustical panels. Professional services, as Ron stated about COVID, some of those changes are tied to that and some of the related overtime and architectural owner rep services. Technology is pretty much hardware changes. And then moving down into proposal 2 on the professional services again, additional commissioning services. And then under other work by Portage, public schools, storage building, and softball and baseball field work. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, that would conclude kind of where we are. I'd just like to summarize that we'll continue to monitor the projects that are open. I will be coming back to the board to give you a little more clarity on future enhancements and kind of what the cost of some of those projects are. We're putting that information together, and that'll come to the board for consideration at some point.
Hey, Ron?
Yes,
It's Rusty here. I was just going over a list of enhancements. Are there certain restrictions on where we can spend money and not spend money? I was just looking at the auditorium stuff and the high school stuff, and I didn't know if we could do work inside the high schools. That wasn't clear to me. I thought we couldn't, and I'd love to.
we can.
What's that?
We can.
Oh, we can. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I was under the impression we couldn't. So
Yeah,
that's great.
the language was written such that we have a wide range of things that we can spend money on. We
Good.
do that up front so that we would be in the position that we are now.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification.
Yep.
Ron, I just want to thank you and Dan and
you got Bo, who
our
wants.
partners for the good news tonight. I mean, very pleased with the work you guys have been doing, and it's great news. Thank you very much.
Yep, and Randy, I was trying to get in one thought too, but very similar to yours. I mean, Ron, the big takeaway here is you just gave us $860,000 worth of good news, right? Which helps us stretch that bond dollar farther. And Ron, remind us, but a lot of that work at West Middle School was not originally planned, but we were able to do it when we did an initial round of stretching the dollar farther. Am I right on that? Remembering that?
Well, we did shift dollars also from PCEC. So it was a combination of both of those things.
Yeah. So I just wanted to underscore that this is kind of a continued good trend of stretching those bond dollars farther. So I and I'm sure everybody in the community is much appreciated. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Ron, I know you mentioned it in your memo. Yeah, I didn't hear you mention it this evening. There still is interest earnings on some of those dollars. It's not shown yet, but it's an estimated amount is listed there for you.
And that's another $2,700,000 and some change that would go with that unallocated contingency for future enhancement consideration. So,
Okay. If there are no further, thank you, Ron and Dan. Thanks for your good work. Was there anything else on that you want to say, Ron?
no,
Or you're all
I'm
set?
good.
Okay. Well, then we'll move into the monthly financial report, and we'll have Paula Johnson do that. Paula?
Good evening, Board of Ed and Superintendent Beeling. Tonight I present to you the budget report through the month of February 2021. I typically pull out the previous year report to kind of reacclimate myself to where we were at, and we didn't have a board meeting, a second meeting in March last year, because it was right when everything was going to into effect with COVID and the lockdown and whatnot. So I found that to be a unique situation, but this report does take into consideration the budget amendment that we passed in February. And so there's not a lot to cover with this other than just to point out discrepancies between current year and previous year. So my report might be a little bit shorter than normal. So I just want to apologize in advance and apologize if you've also heard the reason why before. Looking at revenues on the federal line item of the report by function code, we have included in the budget this year both CARES money and ESSER money. We did not have these federal funds in 1920, and we do have more ESSER money yet coming to the district before the close of this fiscal year. So that number is yet to change as well. Looking at the local category from payments from other districts, we're trending a little lower than last year, and that's the area that we get the special ed millage and the enhancement millage from KRESA through. And tax collections just must be coming in at a little bit slower of a pace than what they were a year ago at this time, possibly due to the economy. But so that's the reason why we're pacing lower in local payments. So coming down to the expenses area of the budget, just want to touch briefly on the added needs line under instruction. I know we made some changes to the special ed budget for this school year versus last school year that did see a result in a reduction in overall expenditures. And then I also noticed that we're not spending at-risk money quite as fast as what we were spending it last year at this time. So those are reasons why we're trending lower there. Like to point out in the transportation area under support services, same explanation that I've given you before. We're actually pacing slower in the salary category for the drivers. Our fleet insurance is down when compared to last year because our insurance company gave us a credit for, actually technically it was for the 1920 school year that we saw in the 2021 school year. And then repairs and fuel continue to be down for us when compared to the previous year. Now we're just about coming up on that pace of when everything pretty much stopped for transportation. When we look at the month of March and April, we should hopefully see some of that variance come down a little bit. Under other support services, just want to point out that athletics is still trending down. Coaches' salary, officials' cost are down due to fewer games that we've held. Also, they have spent less in supply costs when compared to last year at this time. Community services, just like to point out that enrichment services are pretty much not happening right now due to COVID. So that has pretty much come to almost a halt in that area. I know they plan to pick it up in next year. And then childcare services, as you know, we also did not have our summer program for Curious Kids. We didn't start up those programs until September. So we're lagging behind in those in costs when compared year over year due to the late start because of COVID. And on the second page of your report, the only thing I just want to point out by object code is our capital outlay looks like we have spent less percentage of budget as compared to last year. And we have because we did not implement the capital outlay program that we typically do across the district for the 2021 year, because when we started out the year, we were in such a budget reduction mode due to the potential reduction in state school aid funding that we were going to receive that did not happen. And then one other thing that I just like to touch on really quick, just so the board is aware, we're getting ready to submit our spring count file to SEPI, our MSDS file, and it's looking like our spring, what we call spring count, because it's due now, compared to the fall count that we submitted last fall, down about 38 students or 38 FTE that we're claiming less for our spring count than we did in the fall. That's all that I have right now. Any questions?
Thank you, Paula. If there are no questions, just a couple of other things I want to mention. I thought maybe Paula was going to go there for a second, but with the, I want to commend our transportation department. We had our annual bus inspection taking place over the last several weeks, and 62 out of our 63 buses all got green flagged. So that's very good news, and speaks highly of our transportation staff for taking care of buses. We do have more vehicles than that, but the ones that we received that are new, that are coming in, are pre-inspected. So that's why that number may seem a little lower than what we normally have. But again, those folks there in transportation do a wonderful job in keeping up the equipment, and we're happy for that result. The second thing I want to mention, we're about at the midway point of the elementary facilities survey that's available to district residents. Hopefully this will serve as a reminder for those that haven't taken the opportunity to provide us with some input, that is a survey that's open through March 30th of this year, of this month. And for those people that don't have access to it or can't gain access via their computer, we do have paper copies available at central office. I know a few people have picked up paper copies already, so we're hoping for some good results, useful results on that'll be presented to the board at a special meeting on May 3rd. So those are the two added items that I wanted to mention. Any questions on either of those? All right. Randy, I think that does it for my report.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much. We'll now move to board education, elementary facility planning update, and I'll shoot it back to you, Mark.
All right, thank you, sir. We have Jesse Nelson is joining us this evening. Jesse is with Baker Tilly and is one of our our main financial advisor. We've been working very closely with Jesse and staff at Baker Tilly. I mean, on an ongoing basis with running numbers in different scenarios. I know we've been bothering him a lot this year with, what if this, what if that, and he has a PowerPoint presentation that he's going to share with you this evening. It's similar information to what you previously received, but without the benefit of having Jesse present that. So we have him with us this evening to do that. As you know, we're in a very kind of fortunate situation come this August. And I think what Jesse has to say will shed some light on that. So Jesse, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, board. Thank you, Mark, for having me this evening. I really appreciate to be able to share the information. Just as Mark said, I have a short presentation just covering on what a Michigan School District voted bond issue is, what you can and can't do with it. I thought that would be good. Then we'll walk through the bond millage rate. And then we have been looking at some scenarios with your capital plan and how that may look. And certainly as I go through the information, if you have any questions or comments, by all means, I welcome that information. So I'm going to attempt to share screen here to see if I can pull up the presentation. All right. So does everyone see it's the picture of the presentation here? Okay, good. Obviously, you and I have all learned about technology during this thing. It always worries me when I click a button, so we're off to a right start. So the first thing that we just want to review is what a Michigan School District voted bond issue is. Working with community members and boards, just to kind of review, what the program is and how it works. And it is an election. where a school district asked the community for a not to exceed amount of bonds to be issued for capital improvement purposes. And so really the community member, when they're voting on the project, is approving two items. One, they're going to approve the maximum par amount of bonds that are allowed to be issued. So they set the ceiling or maximum amount per the election that the school district can issue. And then the other main paragraph is the allowable expenditures of bond proceeds. Earlier in the meeting, we had a good question from a board member saying, hey, you know, things are working well. Ron's doing a good job on the project. Could we take on some different projects? And so it's very important that the ballot language includes all of the different items that you may or may want to do at your district. So for example, if you wanted to buy some buses, but you didn't put bus purchases in the ballot language, you would not be able to purchase those buses because the community did not approve that item. So really at the ballot proposal, the community is going to be approving two main items, the maximum par amount of bonds and what those proceeds can be used for. Then if approved, just as we have now, the community member or the school district will levy a bond millage rate every year. And that bond millage rate is solely just to collect taxes to make the annual bond payment. It doesn't interact with the general fund, cover any type of operations or wages. That bond millage rate, because the community has approved the bond vote, is levied each year and brings in the money to make the bond payments. And then in the middle of our slide, a strategy that a lot of school districts have been using, and I believe you've used in the past, is called a multiple bond series option. And what this is talking about is if a community approves $50 million, just as an example, in an election, you do not have to go out and immediately issue $50 million worth of bonds. You could do it in multiple bond sales, or what they say series. So using that $50 million example, you could do one bond sale immediately for $25 million. You could wait 2 years and then do the other $25 million a little bit later. Again, as long as you don't exceed what the voters have approved. And there's some good capital planning strategies that are used in the multiple bond series options. Just as you've seen with your construction schedule, a lot of the times they'll look at the different projects and see when the money is going to be needed. So if you can't do that project till the summer, or you need some time to design that project, what you want to avoid is paying interest expense on money you don't need. So a lot of schools will look at their projects over the next 5 to 6, 7 years, and then they're going to plan those bond sales accordingly to match up with their construction draw schedule, and that does create some efficiencies. So it's a really nice alternative and capital planning tool that schools use. Bond proceeds can only be used for capital improvement purposes, school buildings, real estate, instructional technology, just some examples. And then they're not allowed to be used for any type of operating or what we would call general fund items. So those will be your maintenance, salaries and wages, programming. Voted bond issues are not allowed to be used for those items. They are solely a capital planning or capital funding tool. So this is just a quick illustration of how the bond millage rate works. So I'll just run through this pretty quickly. Is every year, the County Equalization Department reassesses the property values or gives you a new taxable value for the school district. Paula receives that, and we work with her to recalculate that every year. So you receive your new taxable value figure. Then you're going to look at what the annual bond payment is, in this example, $1 million. And then you calculate, well, on my taxable value, the school district needs to levy, in our example, 2.1 mils. That'll bring in $1,050,000. We'll make our bond payment of $1 million, and that'll be a $50,000 that will go into the debt retirement fund. So we do hold some cash in the debt retirement fund that we bring in from the bond millage rate. Again, it can only be used for bond payment purposes, but we do hold a little bit there because of tax collection timing and many different issues. And then as the bond payment decreases, so you can see we go $1,900,000 in our example, then the bond millage rate decreases as well, because we only levy a bond millage rate every year necessary to make the bond payment and hold a reasonable reserve. So I thought it would just be nice to be able to just run through that again, how the bond millage rate works on a school district voted bond issue. Obviously, those tables that we work on can be many rows long, and it's a fantastic spreadsheet. You can imagine me, the accountant, I love those things, but we found that these types of charts are a little bit easier to read, and we'll use these as an example in our presentation. So this is the annual bond payment is the green bar, and then this is the estimated bond millage rate. And then as you can see, as the green bar decreases, the bond millage rate decreases as well. So it's just a nice little visual to show the same detailed information that we looked at in the previous slide. So now let's move into some capital planning estimates that we put together for the school district. And so you look at the top left corner of our slide, it says this is an example August 2021 election. And when working on this type of project, because it's going to be, larger capital improvements over time, there's really two focuses. One, we want to be efficient with the funds, trying to reduce the interest expense we're paying. And then number two, we would like to keep the bond millage rate the same for the community. When I get a project or I'm working on those two things, those are the two goals I want to accomplish. So in this example, this election would be for a total of $175,725,000. So that would be the not to exceed figure that the voter would see in the ballot language. However, the bonds would not immediately be issued in 175 million. In this example, you can see we'd have a bond sale in 2021 of 50 million, a bond sale in 2023 of 38.9, a bond sale in 26, so a 3-year difference here of 43.3, and then a final bond sale of 43.3 in 2027. And so what's really nice here is we're only bringing in money as construction is necessary. And what's really beneficial as far as our interest expenses, you can see there's 2 years between 21 and 23. That gives us 2 years to pay down that bond or make principal payments on that bond and pay down our existing bonds before a new bond comes on. And that really helps us out financially when we can pay down some of the bonds before a new one comes on. And if that will fit the construction cash flow, that would be a really nice setup, hopefully to accomplish any type of capital improvement needs you would have at your school district. And then this estimated plan is also nice in that it would be able to keep the bond millage rate at 6.85. So we would not have to increase the bond millage rate to the community. And we're able to do that again by not bringing on $175 million immediately. We spread that over time, giving us time to pay down our bonds, which helps with our interest expense. And then that obviously helps the bond millage rate going forward. So it's a nice alternative working with the team in order to accomplish that goal of being efficient and then also keeping the bond millage rate the same. And then the last slide is then just an estimate as to what the bond millage rate would look like. The green bars, I know there's a lot of color coding here, but just to see how this would come together. The green bars are our existing bond payments. Then the series 1 would come on in the blue. Our next series would be the yellow. And then the purple would be the next series, and there would be our final series and how those payments would come together in total. So again, we're able to pay down some of the bonds before a new bond comes on, and that really helps keep our capital planning. And that's what helps us keep that 6.85. Then it's estimated the 6.85 would stay till 2032. And then that would also begin to drop off slowly until out to 2047. And all of this information is estimated because each year, we get the new property values. Every time we have a bond sale, we're estimating interest rates. So that's the estimate that we have at this time, just looking at that example capital plan. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that information or any thoughts?
Hey, Jesse, this is Bo. Can I go real quick?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
And it looks like from that chart, the other really neat thing we've got going on is a little bit of a drop from 2020 to 2021 in the payments on those old bonds. So what we're doing is we're meshing your new schedule a little bit into the old schedule. So that's all part of the planning.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point is that, working with a lot of clients across the state, they usually give me two missions is they don't want to increase the millage rate to the community. We want to keep that bond millage rate. We don't want to do an increase. And then number two, they'd like to maintain their facilities and have capital planning coming in. So that's also a great opportunity, as you pointing out here, because of the existing bonds coming in, that provides that great opportunity to not have to do that, and then also get some new capital funding lined up.
Yep, this is pretty clever.
Well, I do my part, but obviously you guys have done a great job putting this plan together. So it's a nice team effort, and I enjoy projects where we can leave the millage rate the same. I mean, sometimes working with a lot of clients, we have to change that, but when you can, do these types of things, it really works out well. So it's a nice opportunity.
I would just mention that the issue schedule that Jesse has created is one that we've kind of is working in parallel with our architects and our construction management firm to make sure that it's a doable project. So this is not hypothetical. It matches what our needs are and what was previously presented to the board as to which schools would be replaced on what schedule. So it does match that.
Well, I did not have anything else. Most of the time, they tell us accountants to keep it short and get to the point, so I don't bring the spreadsheets and put everyone to sleep. But I think it was just a great point earlier. It's really nice how this has come together. This is a good setup. From the accounting standpoint, I really like to see this type of efficiency play out. We're not borrowing $175 million and keeping the millage rate the same. So if that's what you need and that's what fits for the school district, everything looks good on the accounting end.
Well,
Jesse, your estimates for taxable value are conservative, correct?
Yeah, we assumed like 2.5%, 2.25%, and the area's been growing much faster than that. And I think that's also a good point. Is the other nice thing about these bond series is that these are not set in stone. You have the ability to change them or move the sizings around. So for example, if we get to 2023 and unfortunately economic conditions have changed, so maybe taxable values are moving down, we've had that experience in our lifetime, you do have the ability to change the power amounts and the timing. So if we didn't want to do 38 million and we just wanted to do 30 million in order to keep that at 6.85, or maybe you just don't need the money because the construction hasn't moved that fast, you are able to adjust your plan. You just can't go over, what the community approved. So we've had several school districts that have changed their bond series timing for interest rate market conditions, like we are now, are low, and they've also made some adjustments for their construction. So that is an option.
Hey, Jesse, Kurt Droppers, what interest rate assumption did you use for out in 26 and 27?
I'll have to pull that real quick. Usually, as you can imagine, as we get further out, I'm much more conservative on that end. Normally I start, as interest rates rise from a short end to a long end, normally I start at a minimum about 2% and then make my way up, sometimes reaching 4 and 5%, depending how far I go out. I'll have to double check and pull the details. Is it okay if I just email that to Mark and Paula, because I don't have that right
No, I'm just curious because obviously we are low, and that would throw your whole chart off if we see, the long bond go, the long muni is now at 2.5, and if it goes to 4, I mean, obviously 6 years ago we were at 5. I mean, and so I just want to know what your assumptions were.
Yeah, no, and that's a great question. That's the biggest fear I ever have, because you have a great point. We're estimating how many years out. And just to be conservative on that, certainly now in the past years, we've come in way under budget. And when that happens, that allows us to pay a lot of principal payments forward, which then also helps the program. So hopefully if things stay low, we'll have a good series 1 bond sale, and that will protect us against the others. But you're right. I mean, interest rates are going up and down. I always want to be conservative on that.
Well, for sure, and I mean, that's the big, worry when you're making these presentations out borrowing 10 years from now, what that long bond's going to be yielding. Because, all the best people on Wall Street don't have a clue,
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the other good thing about the bond series. If unfortunately interest rates have moved away from us, so maybe, we can't afford 43 million because the long bonds moved here. We could downsize this. We could change the timing to adjust to the interest rate market too. So we're not locked into that. So that's another nice option of the bond series is that flexibility.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Great question.
Yeah, hey, so this is Bo. I'm just gonna state again what I hear here because I think this is really momentous. Is a lot of good minds have worked on this, and we figured out how to mesh the old bond payment schedule with a creative new bond payment schedule, and we've meshed that with a construction timeline. So it would appear the community can have all this elementary work done without changing its tax rate. And I just think that's momentous. So I'm just incredibly pleased.
Thank you very much, Jesse, for your work and your presentation. It was very good. Easy to understand. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always been an honor working with the school district, and it's a great plan putting this together, and Ron and Mark and the team and Paula, and it's just a really nice plan that's able to come together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. That's it for this item, Randy.
Okay, we'll move to our comments and communications section. Are there any comments from citizens this evening? I don't believe we have any. Okay, comments by board trustees, please.
Yeah, I guess I have one that, thank you for letting me miss last 2 weeks ago. I had a great time in Florida and I missed you only a little bit 2 weeks ago, Monday night.
Well, just so you had a good time, Kurt.
Mr. President, I just wanted to comment on the anti-racism program that took place last week. It was very informative, and I greatly appreciate the information that was shared. I'm curious, however, as to how many may have participated overall, because it was well worth the time.
Are you referring to the Jason Mills, the book series?
Yes.
Promotion?
Jason and Brendan.
Yes. So I signed up and I was unable to attend because I had conflicts, but I did read the book and I thought the book was absolutely great. It's good for teenagers. It's good for adults. It was really a very good read. I am wondering if I still have my ticket number. I thought someone put a message out saying you can get it on YouTube. You have your admission number. Does anybody know that?
Terry, we've been in touch with the folks that organize the event. There are some very limited abilities that we have as to how we can use that, the video. I think we have some ability to do it for educational purposes in Kalamazoo County. So if we can make that available to board members that weren't able to attend, then we'll do that. We'll send you a link to that as soon as it's available for us.
That would be great. Like I said, it was definitely worthwhile.
I know we had several hundred community members that were tuned in live to that event, and the feedback we've gotten is very positive on a very difficult but yet important topic that was covered very nicely by the two authors.
That's what I was getting at, Mark, because I know that one of the comments came from a KPS teacher, and I was just curious how widespread it was and how that invitation went out. But a couple hundred, that sounds good.
I'll double check that. That's what my recollection is. I mean, it wasn't, it was over 200, but I don't know exactly. And I don't know if anyone on the team here knows, but I'll double check with Sarah Brown and confirm that.
The thing about it that I thought was so powerful is that it just showed how something very innocent can turn into something that is evil and insidious, and then the power that was created by the others to overcome that was very, very vivid, and just it would lead to understanding from people who don't understand. So I thought it was, like I said, great, really good job.
Thank you, Celeste. Thanks, Terry. Any other trustee comments?
Hey, Randy, I'll go next. It's kind of funny having two kids in high school and reflecting over the past year. You know, we were shutting down schools, and at this time we thought we were on maybe a 3 or 4 week shutdown, not knowing what's to come. But celebrating this year, I think there's a lot to really celebrate on how we handled this process. And so I just want to thank everybody, the teachers and staff, the administration, the kids, the parents, and the school board. I mean, when you look at all the dialogue in this past year, and as we surfed how to move forward, how to keep learning going, how to keep kids safe, how to keep staff safe. There was a lot of dialogue, a lot of listening, a lot of trust. Sometimes people didn't necessarily always agree, but when I look at where we are, getting kids back in high school who want to be in high school, offering kids online learning, and there's a lot of good learning going on. I mean, is it perfect? No, but I don't know any system that's perfect, balancing the safety and education. But when I just look back at the past year and how everybody as a team, being administration, the board, staff, families, I'm just really proud to be a Portage resident and what we did here. We seem to split a dichotomy of safety and learning. And I'm just really, thankful for everything. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rusty. Very good. Anyone else?
350 was the number, Randy and Celeste. We had 350 online viewers that evening.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move to our consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first is to approve the minutes from the March 8, 2021 Committee of the Whole work session. And the second item is to approve as presented a bond funding budget of $456,000 for the Central High School student parking lot extension and $400,000 for Central Middle School and North Middle School security window film installation. The total requested amount of $860,000 will come from the 2019 bond fund proposal number 1. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Very good. The consent agenda then is approved. And we'll move way down the list to item number 10, discussion items. And the first is the Chartwell contract renewal for 2021-22.
And Paula will handle that one. So Paula, whenever you're ready.
Good evening again, Board of Ed and Superintendent Beeling. Included in your board packet was a memo requesting permission to authorize myself to execute contract renewal with Chartwells for the 21-22 school year. Included in that memo were details in regards to changes in the cost of the contract going into the 21-22 school year, laid out in regards to the management fee, administration fee, and meal equivalent factor that's used for a la carte sales. This process is a formality, where MDE requests that the districts renew the contracts with the food service management companies on an annual basis. And so I'm coming to the board tonight as a discussion item to just bring it to your recommendation for approval at the next meeting in April. And included also in the memo were highlights in regards to things that have happened in food service over the school year, and also all of the wonderful meals that Susan and her staff have served to our community, especially when we went into closure last year. So we included some data there so that you would be aware of how many breakfasts and lunches we have served, and then again, how many that we've served out into the community, even once we were back in session. So that's all that I have right now for this item. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Paula, for that presentation, and thank you for putting some of that extra detail on there about all the extra things that Chartwell did this past year. Thank you. Discussion item is the Dell switchgear purchase, and I think Dan's going to help us with that.
Yes, trustees, this is just the documentation regarding the emergency purchase we made for switchgear to address our current network problems. It's our goal to have this installed by the end of spring break, assuming Dell can get all the parts to us that we need. But beyond that, I would simply offer my thanks again to all of our staff who have been, so patient with all this, especially the teachers at Central Middle School and North Middle School, where the problem has been the most severe. So with that, I'll just take whatever questions you may have.
Any questions for Dan? Well, thank you, Dan, for all the work you're doing to get things back to where they should be. We sure appreciate it. We know you're doing all you can. And with that, I believe we've reached the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.